Welcome to the Fresh and Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Marshall, here to help you function at your best in health, fitness, and life. And today, our co-host, Haley Pindle, we miss you, Haley. She had to work. Like, what is that, right? But we still love you, and we will have her on the next episode. In the meantime, I have a special guest to introduce. But before we do that, I have to say the words, let's get fired up. It is time. Feeling fired up because we have Amber Miskovich on, and she is a lovely lady doing so many amazing things. She's a leader, speaker, a coach, massage therapist. She's going to get into more of maybe some of her focus points and how it all ties into her business. I know, Amber, you're a veteran as well as firefighter and a wife and a mom, which is a job in and of itself. And she is the owner of the Wonder Within wellness coaching and business. So you can tell us more about your business and the holistic wellness side of things and the focus that you have with it. I know that she is very motivated, or from what I've gathered from you, and you can dive into this more, of people's mental, emotional, and physical well-being for a stronger life. So welcome, Amber, and I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. For me, this is an honor to just be able to share my story, but also to meet like-minded women who just want to take care of themselves. And I know that you have amazing children, and I love watching you and all the things too. So, and your businesses. So, yeah, for me, it really has to go back to childhood. I think all of us, if we look at where we're at, it's like we're kind of bred into this. There's no coincidences. I firmly believe God puts us exactly where we're supposed to be. I grew up in a body shop in a small town that, it took 20 minutes to get anywhere pretty much where I grew up. And my dad would work on cars and the school bus would drop us off. And so I grew up in this blue collar um, land where it was like, I just didn't know any different than work is what you do. And I got my second job at 13 because I had been working from him from the time I was pretty young, serving and catering for weddings. So I just have always been in the service industry. Joined the military, and actually became a massage therapist right out of high school because I didn't want to go to a four-year college. I was obsessed with the human body. Really enjoyed massage school because we had a wonderful program where it was an associate's degree where you got to really work on cadavers, work with the human body. And I just learned so much at such a young age of 18 that is, I'm 42 now. I think that was some of the most impactful years of my life. Knew that a massage therapy was not going to be able to take me for a career for the rest of my life. So I joined the military as a medic, again, obsessed with the body, helping people. Waited for all my friends to kind of join the military and see what branch is the best. I wanted to be a Marine. And they were like, no, you need to go Air National Guard because you're going to get the best pay, the best places to stay. So I took that advice. Loved my time, served 15 years as a medic, had really awesome experiences, got to go all over, got to work with a lot of Army groups too. So I was under Army command for a little while as well. I just absolutely loved my time in the military. And then one day I was massaging a firefighter, and he said, "Why are you not a firefighter?" And I was like, I honestly didn't know that women could do that. So I ended up that was a Wednesday, and Saturday I ended up joining a adult fire academy. Only woman, no idea what I'm doing. Literally had no clue what firefighting was. I shit you not, part of my language. And the rest is really kind of history. So I end up going full time as a firefighter. I'm loving this life. I'm like in the military doing massage and also working multiple fire jobs. Meet my husband, who's also a veteran. He served 22 years. And as life started happening, I'm teaching fitness and wellness, both in the military and for the fire academy that I had graduated from, some nutrition. And I've just always had this passion for it because I was overweight as a little girl. And I think it was like a 17, I had found this book called Body for Life. And it was really just what we would call Whole 30 now, eating clean, lifting weights, and doing cardio. And I just got really lean and found that I loved the way I felt from working out. I loved the way I felt from feeding my body healthy. Um, and that really like sparked this thing within me. And again, that was like 17 to 18 years old. Also, I'll just be really blunt because this really affects women across the board is at 18 is also after I'd eaten so clean for a year where an eating disorder actually started. And it started like the moment that I put bad food in my body again. and it was actually at my graduation party. So I love to talk to women because I've struggled 20 years with bulimia. Really love to share that we're not alone, because actually it's a way more common than what we think, um, amongst men and women. But to kind of get back to, what led me to starting the Wonder Within is I'm a workaholic. I like to say that a lot of us probably are, but I left the fire service to help my husband's business, to be a stay-at-home mom. I thought I'd have my first son, and I couldn't sit and just be. I didn't know how to slow down, which is another problem for a lot of women. I have to always be doing something, which is absolutely a trauma response. So I leave this career that I love, that was really hard on my ego, and I immediately start a business, because why not, right? So I start this wellness center, and what I want to do is just bring all facets of wellness. Now at this time, I've run a half marathon. I love to lift. I love all types of like hardcore working out. I'm not into yoga yet. And I'm like, not for me. I'm good. I don't need to go to a yoga class. And then I had my daughter in 2015, and I could not lose weight. Like, I could not lose the weight that I had gained. Tried running a half marathon right afterwards, tried doing all these things, right, that we do, eating 1,200 calories a day, which is very stupid when you're breastfeeding. Um, but again, my body, I've been abusing it and using it, and like, why is it not working? Like many of us women do. And my friend said, you should come to yoga. It's like more than what you think. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. But she talked me into it. We do a retreat. And before I know it, I end up, I'm like, I'm going to teach this to all my people, police, fire, military, like everybody I know, I'm going to go teach yoga to. And I had already started my ideas with the Wonder Within. I just wanted it to be all encompassing wellness. I didn't know if that was going to be bringing, like, you, chiropractor, all types of wellness, my massage, um, eating healthy, all these things into fire departments. But I decided right then and there, like, this foundation of yoga has to be part of it. And the massage part has to be part of it, because as you know, you can go to the chiropractor, you can go to the massage therapist, but guess what? If you aren't doing stuff daily to take care of your body, that fascia has a memory. It's going to pull it back, and it's going to be no good for you, right? So um, that it just is like the rest is history. So we started working on site with fire departments. I had an actual brick and mortar wellness center, opened up another one, and this is a whole long story. I won't go into the gamut, but the fire departments kept growing. My speaking engagements, I started to get asked to come and speak to policemen and firefighters, and military groups, and then civilian groups too, about just taking care of yourself, mindfulness. And I had two wellness centers at this point. We had just taken out a huge loan. It's January 2020. I times my space by three times. Have a I can't even explain. I think we were like around $400,000 that we'd invested in our brick and mortar at this point. And then March 2020 happened, and we got shut down, just like that. And all my income that, we're working, we're growing, things were great. Boom, you're shut down, right? So that changed a lot for me. And then June 7th, 2020 was the biggest change. My brother tragically died. He was 2 years older than me. He had become my best friend. Like, and I say that because he's someone that would just shoot me straight no matter what. He loved
Yeah.
me. He'd be proud of me, but he would tell me, Amber, get your shit together. I think we all need someone like that in our life. So that really shifted my life in so many ways. So what the Wonder Within really today is we do, we are at many police and fire departments, mainly fire. We go and do all facets of wellness. We actually bring like 13 modalities in, ranging from yoga, mobility, kinesiology, massage, breath work. Um, and then I do public speaking, I do coaching. I would say more group coaching than individual at this point. And yeah, we just are trying to get people to authentically live a good life. And what I mean by that is, what I see so much is people struggling, and they only show a glimpse of their true life to people. And then behind closed doors, and like, I'm in my home right now, they're not good parents. I know this because I wasn't. They're maybe abusive. Maybe they were abused. Um, they're addicted to alcohol, to drugs, to food, to social media. And my goal is really that the life you live out there doesn't even compare to how good the life is inside of here. Like, that we can be the best version of ourselves in our homes, because that's, Mother Teresa, and we're both Catholic, she says, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And I truly believe that, because everybody's got big missions. I want to go change the world. I want to go. But if you can't fix your home,
Hmm.
it's never gonna feed you, if that makes sense. So in a nutshell,
Yeah.
that's kind of my story. I hope that wasn't too long,
So
but
good. No, it's a beautiful story, and I mean, there's so much to unpack. But even just on the last note that you just said, last night. So I'm currently doing the Lent 40 prayer challenge with the Hallow app. I love the
mhm,
Hallow app.
mhm.
It's so good. So
It's awesome.
if you haven't heard of the Hallow app, you should download the Hallow app. This is
100%.
help you with prayer, meditation, just focusing on God and just yeah, just so much goodness and beauty packed in there. I'm actually listening to a podcast episode, a Matt Frad podcast episode right now with the one of the co-founders of Hallow, and
Okay.
it's been so good too. But anyways, that's just a side note. The reason I want to bring it up because you're talking about living that life inside your home and the prayer time during Lent 40 yesterday was this imaginative prayer with Sister Miriam. And she goes through walking you through a day in the life with the Holy Family, a day in
Mhm,
the life with Mary and Joseph and Jesus, and visualizing like Jesus as a little kid and growing up
mhm,
and like what it would be like to sit around their table and just the love and the exchange of kindness and care that occurred and inviting you to their table to sit and have a meal with them and then uh, aspire to and pray to make that the backdrop of your home and your family life.
mhm.
And so what you said I think really aligns well with that. And it's so true. Like I my husband and I were just talking about this morning about I made a comment of something like, wouldn't things just be so much better? Oh, we were talking about like back in the day, when you think about like old fashioned things, and my kids love history. And my 12-year-old daughter says, ugh, why does school have to be so long? Why does the school day have to be so long? And I'm like, Violet, you guys go from 9 till 3:30. That's 6.5 hours. If you are a shift worker, like if you're a nurse working shifts at a hospital, it's maybe a 12-hour shift, you're only doing like a half of that shift. Like it's
Mhm.
not that long, right? So we're having this conversation because it was like, well, back in the day, you're 12 years old. A few years from now, you might even have your own kids. You're already, if you're a 12-year-old boy, already getting trained in your father's trade. And it's just
Mhm.
so interesting over time. So then I said, well, I feel like sometimes our society's like too soft, like not, this is not you going and being in a classroom is not that hard, right? That's one side. But then there's also like all of these, processing emotions. Like it's so complex, right? And I digress a little bit with this, but just to say, no, my husband's like, well, being less soft is not the answer. It's actually more people coming into the church, right? Like the grace of God is the ultimate answer for a lot of our issues in our societies and our homes. Let's start there. And then, of course, the icing on the cake is taking care of our bodies. That is so important, and being a good steward of our resources and cultivating love in within our homes and our families, and then extending that out into the world, right?
100%. And we're conduits. Like that's how I have it. And it's funny because that's my husband's business is installing cabling. So they always have these conduits, these tubes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, if we're not clear, God, first of all, we're not going to hear God. Um, and there's so many things to that. But I love what you just said about your kids. We homeschool our two kids. They are 10 and 12. So I have a 12-year-old too. And my kids think their life is so hard. And I'm like, you guys do I mean, some days they only do 1 hour of school, and I'm like, I'm the
Yes.
same way. I'm like, you have no idea. And I have to catch myself because I remember my parents saying this because their parents had it so much harder than they had it.
Right. It's
And
so
then I know
true.
yeah, but I I hate to say the weakening of, I know we're different, I'm in America, but it's like the weakening of our culture is actually detrimental to us.
It is.
And
Yeah.
I just believe it's cyclical. And, there's that saying like hard times make strong
Hmm.
men, you know, and it's so true. But how do we teach them how good they have it if they don't understand? the other side of that. That's a trick. That's a tricky thing to do, right? So
It
I
is.
do
Yeah.
try to force things on my kids that they don't like or want. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you
Well,
do,
and
but
that just to kind of piggyback of what you're saying, part of the comment of the long day was I was homeschooling them up until last year. They all just went back to the Catholic school this year. So that's why it feels longer because we were being like, okay, we can get everything done in 2 hours. And I'm like, no, like, this isn't
Mhm.
representative of full reality. I mean, we loved homeschooling too. So I think it can be really good either way you go. But sorry,
Yes.
just so yeah, I totally get
No,
that.
I want to have so many conversations with you about that because my husband is like, we are ready to send them back, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough. It
we should
is
talk
it's
about
tough.
that too.
Yeah, let's talk about it. But I just think that what you're saying is so true, and it's like we've forgotten God, and so for so many of us, we're out seeking for what we think is this instant gratification, this dopamine, whatever it is, relationships, the job, money, food, when really what we're lacking is God. And that's coming from someone like me that I have a strong connection with
Mhm.
God, and I know that sometimes I am seeking something that cannot be gotten from material. It has to be gotten from spiritual. And
Well, and it's interesting you say with, like, even being addicted to things. Like, this Lent, I felt very convicted. I was like, I'm not I wouldn't say I'm addicted to social media, but it started becoming too much of this game of, like, must increase followers, must promote YouTube channel,
Mhm,
must. And it's like, whoa, slow down. Why? Why are you turning into this, like, kinda allowing greed to take root, right?
mhm,
And so this Lent, I gave up, like, not being on my media for chunks of time. So all my downtimers go on at 3 p.m. till 8 a.m. the next day. And I
mhm,
actually in prayer last night was almost like, you know what? I almost feel like I want to finish it off with, like, fully off or, like,
mhm.
just an hour. I don't know, like quieting the noise. We've been going through, like, the power Cardinal Sarah's The Power of Silence, and just like, oh, there's so much noise.
Well, and the reason why men and women, it's so hard for us to be silent is because then everything comes up and we have
Mhm.
to then face it. And if I can't escape it, and I'm really proud of you, by the way, because that I've really stepped back from social media for my business, but I've always had the story of like, well, I have to be on it for my business. And
Yes,
it's like,
I know.
mm-mm. You know what? My business does just fine, and I'm sure yours does too without it. But uh, there's the book A Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a Holocaust survivor, but
Yeah, I know it.
he learned Viktor Frankl. Yeah, so much of that is like if we can't be in silence, we can't survive, really, right? And I really believe that. And we actually make my kids pray and meditate, and even like the rosary, like
Yes.
it's meditative. But even my kids, like, sometimes I think they're just not present, like, they're still not being silent enough, if that makes sense, where I'm like, "Can we just
Yeah,
sit, close our eyes, breathe, and be still? You don't have to say anything. Notice the thoughts that keep coming up and how much you wanna escape." And me too,
yeah.
it is tough, but I love that you're doing that, and, I fully support you, like, doing away with it for the rest of the time.
Well, and it's sometimes, right, it's what you said. It's like there is a wretchedness within all of us, right? Like, we're fighting sin nature. It's a battle. The spiritual life is a battle, but the battle is not always fists up. The battle is sometimes learning to sit in silence. It's learning to pray and be reflective and attentive and contemplative. And I think that there's different phases that we can go through with that. And it's highly underestimated by people. They want to, we're so trained to distract and inundate and go forward. Like, it's like you're saying, we're obviously both in the, like, overachiever category. Like, the people probably ask you, I know people ask me, they're like, what? Why would you do all that? Why would you do all that? And there's times when I reflect on it and I'm like, well, there's probably a little bit of, like, overcompensation, like I must do, or I must go to the next shiny object, or
Mhm,
whatever it is, and kind of questioning our motives. But I think I heard this said, actually it was that podcast I was listening to, is the devil, the forces of evil, our sin nature, right? It can kind of trip us up in two ways. Either pride, right? Where we're like, it's all for vanity and pride. And we're like, well, we must try to control the image that other people's have of us. And we're
Mhm.
really searching for like the things that trip people up over the ages, like power and greed and money. Well, greed, I guess, is money and sensual pleasures. And there's kind of the big ones, right? But I feel like what can happen is we either are like, no, we must drive forward through that for our own vanity, or the opposite, where they trip us up, like where the devil can trip you up being like, you are so awful and you are such a horrible person that you cower into a corner and feel like paralyzed by fear and
Mhm.
paralyzed by ever doing anything. So you don't actually step into what God is asking you to do. I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
finding that like middle ground of reliance on God to actually like listen to his voice and take step. Like I kind of think, well, you have military background. It's like we take action when we need to. And sometimes that can look very different, right? In different scenarios. It's not always head down, drive forward.
well, and I think the drivers of both greed and that it's all shame. It's all shame
Yes.
driven. And to me, what I kept hearing you say is surrender, right? So I need to be
Yes.
battle ready. I need to be clear and know when things are trying to get me in whatever way, whether you're thinking about the prehistoric part of us that's like, saber-toothed tigers coming for me or the devil, whatever it is, like I need to know how to protect myself and I need to know how to surrender and I need to be able to decipher, is this fear or is this my program? Because we've programmed ourselves, right? So much,
Yes.
but
Or is it
shame,
conviction, right?
yeah, yeah. And I love that you said why. Like there's and I don't know the name of it. There's this Japanese practice of the five whys and you keep asking why. Like I got to do this podcast. Why? Well, because I got to get my message out there. Why? And this is my story, right? Because I'm getting mine going. Like, why? Because I know it's going to help. But like, when I get to that final why for me in my podcast, it's because in my heart, I know God's telling me to do it. But
Hmm.
if you can't get through those five whys and ask ourselves for anything, I do this with my kids, they get super annoyed. Why? 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 Why?
That's great.
It gets to the root of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, am I doing it because of greed? Am I doing it because I'm being called to it? Or am I doing it? Do I even know why? So, and you said it earlier. Why do I feel the need to be on social media or however you said it? But it's
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So true. Well, it's interesting. I was reflecting on this last night because, and I know you have this on the final line of your Instagram bio, be strong and courageous, right? And you know how sometimes you have something rooted in your mind? Like I think athletes have it a lot where you know you're strong. You've been strong, especially if you competed at a high level at anything or you were trained in a certain way from a young age. You're like, you inherently know you're strong in
Hmm.
some way, your physical
Hmm.
strength, right? And I think you can learn mental fortitude and resilience through that process as well. That being said, I feel like what can happen is the courage that they're not the exact same thing, strength and courage, right?
Hmm.
And I find courage is this thing that must be cultivated continuously. Well, I guess strength too, but this is just speaking from my own experience. I
Hmm.
can look back in times of life where I've just had like this surge of courage. And then all of a sudden you go a month down the road and I'm like, I feel like a total coward. Like I was so
Hmm.
courageous back there. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, surge of courage. And I'm like, nope, I'm a total coward. Like I think naturally we always want to draw back away from it. And it makes me think of the story of Elijah in the Bible where he's like, he takes, he's the prophet that takes on like this huge elaborate task and like full reliance on God against all these worshipers and prophets of Baal. I hope I'm saying it right. I haven't read through the
Yeah.
story in a while, but you can go reference it if you don't know the story. But then he leaves and is like totally just deflated and like withdrawn. And I find I'm like, oh, this is such a true picture of what happens with when we're called to be courageous in any
Mm.
sort of way. Does that resonate at all?
Oh, and what I just heard is like, okay, so there's the me courage that I think I have to do everything
Yeah.
alone. And then there's like, actually, I'm going to knock you on, God's going to knock me on my butt until I realize like surrender.
Yes.
This is a different type of courage and strength. And, you're a gymnast, right? You are an athlete. And for me, my body was what I started abusing for like I did awesome. I was like top number 2 top fitness in my graduating basic training class.
Right.
I don't say that to impress you. I say it because I
No, no.
abused my body. I abused my body because like, and even my drill instructor said, he's like, you're too dumb. You got like a 76% on the history of America test. I need you to use your body and make sure, because they want an honor flight. You have to basically graduate the best fitness. And I'm like, okay, well, then the same thing happened in firefighting because I'm a woman and I already feel like I have to make up for something, right? Because I'm not as
Yeah,
strong. We're not built the same way as men, period.
I
And
agree.
so yeah, and then my body, like after I had my daughter, well, when I had my son, and I was like almost my pelvis separated, pubic symphysis, all this. Like
Oh,
I was severely hurt after I gave birth to my son, and I had to go back to be a firefighter. And it was like all these signs as I look back, and I'm sure you can do the same, where my body was like, You aren't doing this right.
yes.
And this
I've
is
had
going
it.
to bite you. Yeah. And
Mhm.
um, so I just feel like I've had to learn to surrender to God and be like, show me, and let my ego and my pride get out of the way so that you can show me exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's funny because a lot of people, in fact, my dad freaked out when I taught yoga. Strong Catholic, he's like, "Oh, it's sacrilegious. It's not good." And then his priest told him, because I told
Yeah, I
my
was
dad, I'm like,
curious about that. I haven't really looked into it. I was kind of thinking as you were saying it, so I'm curious
"Mhm."
to know what you have to say on that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different schools of thoughts, and some Christians don't believe Catholics are real Christians. Like there's
Oh,
layers and layers, and I'm not going to go there. But my point
okay.
is a lot of people will say yoga is horrible. And what my dad's priest said to him, and I loved it because I was telling my dad, like, I feel closer to God through meditation and yoga than I've ever felt. And I grew up 12 years in a Catholic school. Like, Dad, I feel closer to God right now than I ever have. And he was scared of me teaching it. And the priest said to him, if your daughter is finding God through her practice of yoga, that's a gift. That's not something you need to fear. And I don't know what priest this was. This has been 10 years ago now. But I love that. And I realized, it doesn't matter what we're doing. Like I have to know, and that again, this goes to my inner barometer. We love to judge people. We love to see things and judge. It's just our natural, it's a protective mechanism. I have to know am I what I'm doing, and I have to listen. And for me,
Mhm.
I hear God much clearer when I move my body and when I breathe deeply and when I get silent. And that's what yoga does for me. And I move my body, my mind gets clear, I breathe well, and my brain's clear. Period. I'm from
Mhm.
constricted, like that strength and a lot. I do this example a lot when I'm speaking, but like if you just make a fist and you squeeze, we know we lose blood flow, right? Yep,
Yeah.
like we lose the blood flow. And then as soon as I open my palm, what happens? It comes back. But when I'm constricted, when I'm stressed, when I'm thinking I have to have all the power, I have to do this, I have to do it on my own, that's all constriction. And what yoga and breath work and all that does for me is it dilates me. It just opens that closed fist and allows me to surrender a little bit. And for me, it's drawn me closer to God. It actually took me back to church, and my husband became Catholic last year. So it's
Wow, that's amazing.
interesting. Yeah,
Last
it's
Easter?
interesting. Yep, it's
That was
been a
us
year.
too. That was our whole family
Uh,
last Easter. Mhm.
oh my, that's so special, Emily. I love that. I
I know
love it.
I'm still working on the when I was talking about being courageous or not is like I feel I haven't shared like our whole story and journey of that on this podcast anyways. Um or to anyone that wasn't just like a friend or a family member or someone who asked, like I haven't
Mhm.
shared it on a forum. So I'm still kind of working or surrendering when the moment is where I can kind of courageously share that more because it's so it's just life changing. But thank you for sharing that about you and your husband. That's amazing.
Well, thank you for sharing it. And I actually, we'll have to have another conversation about that. I I find the same thing. I mean, I don't have a problem sharing Bible verses or talking about God, but I think um, it's always been hard. And I've had my own business essentially as a massage therapist for 20 years. It's hard. It's same with politics, right? Politics and religion. I mean, God is God and it's not politics. And I don't want to compare them, but at the same
Yes,
time, as a business
it's
owner,
polarizing.
it's polarizing, and that we will be judged for it, period, good or bad. Some people are going to be happy, some people are not going to be happy. And to me, and I really felt the call during COVID to really speak out on a lot of things. Again, that's where I got to go back to my inner barometer, but that's sometimes the strength and courage that's the strong, and courageous is using my words and not holding back uh, because of fear. But I really feel you on that because it's polarizing, and especially, I mean, again, I work mainly with first responders and veterans, so it's not that I'm like, it's just, does it have a place here, but also like when asked, I always speak on it, and I'm not afraid to hold back, but I also feel like I'm not necessarily putting it out on social media, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think using discernment and being wise, right, with yeah, with our words and listening, right? I love all that of what you said. And I was thinking about too, even when you were talking about like your description of what occurs within your brain and body while you're doing yoga. I liked that.
Hmm.
Like that made sense to me with the constriction and then like it leading to more dilation. I think something that I threw into another episode that a lot of Christians just don't know is even a resource is like you can reference the catechism of the Catholic
Yeah.
Church, and it has like if you're ever concerned about am I doing something that is against church teaching, like it's all there. And
Yep.
like a great resource is the Catechism in a Year with Father Mike Schmitz.
Schmitz.
He
Yep.
has the Bible in a year, and he has his
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Ascension. They have so many great resources. I'm currently going through the Rosary in a Year with Father Mark Mary, and it's been really good too.
I need
But
to
there's
do
so
that.
yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So anyway, all that to say, there's so many great resources too for if
Hmm.
you're like
Hmm.
concerned, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And I am definitely not equipped to answer all those questions of like again, I've been in this for just coming up on a year within Easter. Now I'm raised in a Protestant Christian home. And so I'm very thankful for my family. And I know most of my family members listen to this as well. So the fact that I've just been raised and immersed in Bible teaching and
Hmm.
the love for God and the love for Jesus and the love for sharing God's love has been a lifelong thing for me. I would say if I think of it like being on the Christian faith as a Protestant and kind of walking along and seeking God and seeking his truth. It's as if coming into the Catholic faith has been like stumbling upon, well, it's not really stumbling upon because we know like God leads us and directs us, but uh, finding this old treasure map and picking it up. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like what happens is people will open it and be like, what is this even for? And toss it to the side. Why do I
Hmm.
even need this? Whereas I felt like for my husband and I, we opened it because we were both raised in beautiful Christian homes and like so much love for God and our family. But it's like we opened up this old treasure map and you're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And it's just like your whole world opens up into this even bigger transcendent reality of the family of God that is like, I can't even describe it in words.
Well, what I think is so awesome, and I didn't know this, I'm a cradle Catholic. Like, so many things I did not know until I sponsored my husband and went through OCI
Oh,
with him.
yes.
And so and I know my sister had told me the same thing. It's like you just realize how much I missed. And I love that you just called it like a treasure and you're opening it because it is such a gift. And I am so blessed that my 12-year-old son I'm sure it's my dad. I'm not sure how, like, he wants to be a priest right now. Like, I mean, he wants to be a lot of things, but
Oh, that's sweet.
he he is the one that is like, you know, always, always driving the bus for us. I mean, my husband is he's great with like leading the family spiritually, but at the same time, it's really interesting to see my 12-year-old son have such a passion for his faith and just really not be afraid to share it. And it's,
Beautiful.
yeah, I love the way you put that. And I think you're absolutely right. It's like, it's dismissed, it's judged, and that's okay. Because,
Yeah,
but it's also a miracle when people come in later. Because I actually think that
it's a
you guys
miracle.
are
Yeah.
our teachers. You guys are our teachers. Like for me, my husband's become my teacher, like truly. And you're absolutely right. The catechism is like, it's there for a reason. And again, I'm going to be totally honest. I really didn't know anything about it until my husband. I mean, isn't that crazy? Like, I grew up going to church every weekend and I went to a Catholic school for 12 years. I, I'm not saying that's any fault of anyone but my own because I was not the best student. But,
Well, but when it
um,
comes back to it, it's like the scripture says this, seek and ye shall find, right? Like,
yeah,
are you seeking? You have to walk through life seeking God and you will find him. But if you are not seeking, you are going to go through life in a hazed and dazed and distracted and oppressed. And it's like having a dim, if you're wearing your sunglasses inside,
yes,
like you're
yes.
seeing everything in a dimmer shade than if you start to seek. And it's almost like God will like take those sunglasses off. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
full scales, right?
Hmm. Get whatever you're
But
looking for. Yeah.
you got to be open to it. Yeah, you definitely have to be open. And it's really like the grace of God. He calls us first, right? Like
Hmm.
we think we're in control of so much, and we're really not.
No, no.
No.
And even the things I know I can't control, my mouth and my words
Yeah.
and my actions, those still, I mean, that's where I need God the most, right? The small part of my life that I can't control is actually where I do need God. And I think there's absolutely a reason why we have two ears and one mouth. I'm supposed to be listening twice as much as I speak. Yet I speak 10 times more than I listen, So it's like, yeah.
Well, that's something. Okay, when we were talking about silence earlier and meditating, right? And the listening
Hmm.
component of that, uh, I just feel like if you don't know how to pray, okay, if you're listening to because there's a whole mix of listeners here on this, and you might be
Yeah.
like, wow, you guys are going down this like spiritual rabbit trail that you're
Hmm.
listening to this, but know that number one, know that God loves you. And if you're listening to this episode right now, it is for a reason. And he
Hmm.
is reaching out to you and he's speaking to you. And it's not us. I'm not saying it's like me and Amber, but I think we can both agree that we want you to know that God loves you and that if you've never prayed before, I feel like I make this, I think it's a mistake where I'll just be like, oh, but you should pray about it. No, prayer is so powerful because prayer is just like the best, right? But you might be listening and being like, yeah, but I don't even know how to pray. Like I listened to a story actually within the Lent 40 challenge, they were talking about going through this man's story and him wanting to come to the faith, but not knowing how to pray and being embarrassed to ask how to pray because he's like a full blown adult man and it's never been a part of his
Hmm.
life. Right. And so part of one, is just having a regular conversation like you've had with any other human, but with God. And the Hallow app can help you with this. But you can just do this on your own. But then actually just getting quiet and listening. That's it. Like you don't even have to say anything. You just need to be quiet and focus your mind on like, okay, God, here I am. What are you telling me? You know?
Oh, I love that, and I think many people feel that way. And I heard this once, and I don't remember who I heard it from, but that we're always praying. We just don't realize the power of the things that we are continually obsessing over. When I'm worrying, I'm basically worshiping the devil, right? I'm not
Yeah.
putting it that way, but like, what am I putting my energy and my time into? We're processing 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Most are on repeat from years and years and years. 90% of them on average are repeat thoughts. When I sit and listen, I notice those repeat thoughts, but also then I am able to hear this messaging Whereas when I'm speaking, I'm just saying the things I already know. And so we love, like, as a family, to hold hands and pray for an intention, right? Little boy
Yes.
we know has cancer. Like, okay, we're gonna, when two or more people are gathered, right, under my name, like, it's magnified. And so I know that it's magnified when others get together in prayer with me. Yet all day long, I have to know that I'm praying.
Mm-hmm.
But is it wise prayer? Am I obsessing over things that I have no control over? Or am I noticing it and saying, "You got this, God, and just guide me"? We can go into a whole different thing, but there's this thing called A Course in Miracles, which is very, many people would say, do not do it as Catholics, do not do it. And I did it after a program called Save a Warrior, which is a 72-hour program. I worked for this amazing foundation, suicide prevention, because I had dark days, and I did everything they told me to do in those 500 days after I left that program. And the last year of it is A Course in Miracles, but there's a prayer in it. And some people argue, like, where that A Course in Miracles came from. We're not going to argue that here, but it says, "Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom?"
Mm-hmm.
And that is like a prayer I say to God all the time before I speak, before, it's like, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? Um, I'm just asking. How many times the Bible does it say ask, ask, ask? Like, I'm asking for help. And again, like you said, Amber and I, like, I don't know how you said it, but you were reaching out to your listeners and saying, like, this is obviously very spiritual heavy. We're talking a lot about God here. We're just conduits. This is what we were supposed to talk about today, right? Like, we're just two conduits, and we love God and God loves you. And you're absolutely right. Like, and just know that we're always asking for something, but is it what you actually want to be asking for? And I have
Mm-hmm.
to continue to really check myself on that when I'm questioning my husband, when I'm harping on my kids. How clear am I being? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, that makes sense. And how sometimes when we're seeking, we don't even know what we're seeking for, but also like giving that to the Lord in humility and
Mm,
allowing Him to guide you. So I am going to share. Okay, can I share part of my story with you?
yeah,
Like
I would love it.
originally kind of coming into the Catholic faith, and we had gone. Okay, so I feel like later my husband's gonna be like, you screwed up the order. There's a possibility I could screw up the order. I don't always, fully trust my memory, but I'm gonna do my best. So it was really this long journey, in particular for my husband. With him, he's very high intellectual, and he reads and reads. And so, he started out seeking, figuring out, so like, what is with sola scriptura, like, so it's all like high theological stuff, so we don't need to get into that today. So he had this journey that was like, just, oh well, okay, then I need to read this from the early church fathers, and I need to read this, like, theologian's opinion on that, and da 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 da, and like 30 books later, right, it's leading him towards the Catholic faith. Whereas for me, it was very different. It was originally, I was leading the church program, the children's program at the church that we went. It's the Alliance Church here in the town that we live in. It's a Protestant church. And we were going through different stories of missionaries and martyrs and saints. Some of the saints were in this same program. And it was Saint Perpetua and Felicity's story. I'm leading this kids program. We watch this like cartoon version of the story, and then we talk about it after, ask questions, have a time of prayer. And it's all just like learning and cultivating faith within the kids and youth, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm sitting there with like 20 kids and youth, and we're just watching this. And I was watching it for the first time because I trusted the platform it was on. I was like, we can just go through the stories and we'll talk about it after. Well, I'm witnessing the story of Saint Perpetua and Felicity, and I'm just weeping, like weeping. It's just piercing
Mm,
through my heart. And I don't even know what I'm experiencing other than that this is just the most beautiful thing, right? And so I
mhm,
get up to then try to cultivate discussion with these kids, and I'm like wiping back tears, right? But that was kind of my first interaction with these two beautiful saints who were so deeply inspiring to me.
mm,
And it started me on kind of a parallel journey to my husband, in just listening to more stories of the saints and the stories of the saints. So my kids and I started listening to the Saints Alive podcast, which is, the Saints Alive program is also on Hallow now as well, but
mhm,
started opening up this world of like, wow, these are just amazing, inspiring people who follow God so closely. And it's not even though they were like born special. It was just, they were like all in with following God. And
Yeah.
he cultivated that and worked on that. And it created more love in their hearts and that greater expression of God's glory in the world, right? And so I'm kind of on this journey of listening to all these saint stories. And in the meantime, my husband, it has come up for both of us, like, we need to go visit the Catholic Church. We need to, like, this keeps coming up in the themes of all of our reading and saint stories, and our discussions were so heavily focused around it. And so my husband started praying for me because I was doing a lot of trips with my jacket business, Frexy, at the time, like trade
Hmm.
shows and networking events. And so I'm on flights, and it's like whenever I travel, the Lord speaks to me more clearly. Again, it's probably like the getting quiet,
Me
away
too.
from kids and the rest of the family
Hmm.
and all that. But so my husband had prayed that the Lord, that Mother Mary, that, if this is something that we should do, that it would be made clear to me as well. He didn't tell me this. Okay. And so it was like the first trip that I went on after that. I had that morning before my flight prayed, Lord, please use me to be a witness, to be loving, to be part of your grace for someone today on this trip. I pray this prayer, I get on the flight. Well, the people I end up sitting beside are Catholic, and they've been Catholic for years, and they're devout. And I look over, and the lady, it was the husband and wife, and the wife was on the by the window seat, and I was in the aisle, and she's holding this Bible, and I'm like, I look over, so she's reading the Bible. She has a rosary wrapped around her hand. And so I'm like, excuse me, I'm like, what are you reading? So we get into this discussion about the Bible, and then we get into discussion about the rosary. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds fascinating to me. I really know nothing about it. Get into a little bit of like faith background and all of that. And then she starts explaining to me how to pray the rosary and what it is and what it means. And of all things, her name is Mary. Okay. Like, of course, she's also a
Can't make
doctor.
this.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, you know what? I prayed this morning. I actually have another rosary here with it all laid out how to pray it. I prayed this morning, Lord, may I be able to bless someone with this rosary. And then she gave it to me on the flight. I am weeping on the flight. We have this huge discussion. She teaches me how to pray the rosary. We get off the flight. I'm like, can I hug you? We're standing in the airport of wherever I was, like Phoenix, I think at the time. And I'm hugging this stranger named Mary, like crying. It was the most beautiful thing. And so then that same rosary, when I got, so now I'm like, oh, okay, I got to like pray through this. When I get to the event that I'm at, I had a roommate that I had never met before. We just connected through the event, and I had it on my bedside table. And of course, it sparks this discussion. She's like, no way, I grew up Catholic. My mom has one of those. We get into this whole discussion about prayer, and it's just this huge trickle effect, right? And I kid you not, like thing after thing after thing. And then the next trip that I was on, it got even more magnified. So from that point of having a rosary, I discovered the Hallow app. I started praying the rosary at night with the Hallow app. Okay. Previous, without getting like too far into all the details, ever since I was a little kid, I struggled with extreme nighttime fears and like night terrors, horribly debilitating night terrors, demonic activity. Now I see more now of like dreams and visualizations that were really like graphic and horrible and horrendous and just debilitatingly fearful. And this went on all through my life, like into adulthood, into this same time period. I kid you not, I started praying the rosary with the Hallow app, and I would have difficulty falling asleep as well, high anxiety, wake back up in fear.
Mhm.
It all went away. I would start praying the rosary, fall asleep. I never made it through the rosary because I would fall asleep before it finished. It'd be under my pillow or in my hand. I would sleep like peacefully through the night. And I was like, this is amazing. Like absolutely life-changingly amazing, right? And so then I'm on this next flight to Texas. And I said to myself, okay, Em, you've never made it through the rosary because you always become so peaceful that you fall asleep, which is not a bad thing. But I was like, you got to make it through, right? So I get on this flight, and they said it was super packed because they, when they ask people to send them their check bags at the front because the flight's so full, it was that
Mhm.
for this flight. Well, I get on the flight, purposed in my heart that I'm going to pray. I'm going to get through the rosary on this flight. And the temptation to work is strong. Like, you know how it is. I'm like, no, I have
Hmm.
all this time. I got so much work to do. I got all these things in my mind. I got to write this
Yeah.
out. I was like, no. I said I was going to pray the rosary. Well, meanwhile, I'm looking and I'm like, the flight's filling up, but the 2 seats beside me are not. And then they close the door and we go. And I'm like, okay, I guess I got 2 free seats beside me. I start praying the rosary on this flight. And of course, in the way that I am, what you also already described of like being so high strung that you want to do everything really fast because you have so much to do. I'm like, why are there 10 Hail Marys? Like, I'm like, this is so long. Like, I'm like, literally, first decade, I'm praying it as fast as I possibly can. And then all of a sudden, but I've kept going. Also, I get to the second decade and it's like time and space completely slowed
Hmm.
down. And all of a sudden this world just like opens up of I kid you not, I have the presence of the Lord Jesus. I feel like a hand on my shoulder and I turn and it's like Jesus in the seat beside me and then Mother Mary in the seat beside him, and their presence is there with me. And as soon as I felt their presence like right there with me, it's as if I was praying for like 200 people at once. Like this person I saw on the street in the city, this like family members, friends, people from way back, like that I haven't seen in years and years. And it was all of a sudden, I'm like, I had no idea that you could be like praying for like hundreds of people at the same time. It was like they gave me this glimpse into like opening up the amount of grace they're pouring out for people's prayers. And I'm just same thing. I'm weeping and weeping. And I go through the whole rosary. I think I went through it 2 times and I had almost like I didn't even realize the time had gone by until uh, the pilot's voice was like, all right, we're preparing for landing. And I'm like, what? Like the flight had just gone by. I was just like praying the whole time. And I was like, I've never done that. I'm like, are we done? Like, we got to move on to the next thing. Right. So that to me was like such a life change. I will never be able to erase that moment. It's the most beautiful gift of God. And
You,
my husband was like, I had been praying for you. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. So yeah, that
you
was
have to share that story. You have like as you're I'm first of all I have tears. I'm like, of course. You have to share that story because and it's like I just feel like this is your time to really share that story because
well, I guess I
I
just did
really
kind
do.
of, right?
I mean, you did, and so for all your listeners, but I think even on a bigger level because it's not that this isn't big, you know exactly what I mean.
No,
Like,
I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
it is very powerful, and when you get that clarity, like there's no mistake here because
No,
our logical mind wants to say it was just a coincidence. Like, absolutely not.
no.
I have an aunt that's Mary, that's very Catholic, that is a doctor. So as you're telling me this, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Maybe
and she
it's her.
travels a lot. I know, but I am also just like, there is no coincidence. And I like when I travel, I'm with you. Like I'm so clear and so close, and I just can't wait to like share with everybody like all these things because it's like the conduit. We're at home. You have all these things you got to do.
Yeah,
The
it's true.
conduit's not as clear, which is why we go to church, right? That's why we pray the rosary. Like I struggle paying attention sometimes in church. I'll be the first to admit it.
Mhm.
The biggest thing I appreciate about being at mass is the quiet. Like we never get that time with all of us as a family.
Yes.
We're
The
all there for the same purpose. My kids are holding my hand still. It's
I
the
love that.
most beautiful gift. And
It
we're in
is.
God's home and we get to take the Eucharist. It's like the biggest blessing.
It
But when
really
we're
is.
in life, yeah, we're clogged. And so I think it's like that's why we have to come back to those prayers is to unclog our tubes, period.
Totally.
Like that's yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful story. Like I love it. I want to hear it again.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, thank you. Well, and it's amazing. I love what you said of like that time of silence and you take the Eucharist and you meditate together. You're like just so focused on the Lord. And it is. There's so many times after I'm like, John, I know God has called us to go out, right, in our vocations and share his love with the world. But there's so many times where I'm like, I just want to stay here in your presence, like kneeling in the
Hmm.
silence. And I think that there's obviously times for that, right?
Hmm.
But then it's like taking that out with you. It's yeah, it's tough, but it's good.
Go
Our
live
little
it.
one,
Yep.
yeah, our little ones love giving each other the sign of peace. Now I try to make them do it when they're like in a fight. I'm like, wait, stop, give each other the sign of peace.
They don't want to do it then.
No, they don't. Oh, it's so funny.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but that is so
And
neat too for yourself, just like the re-spark of digging deeper into your faith through this process with your husband. Can you tell? Like, I don't even know, how are you for time? Often these are
oh,
bit
I'm
like
good.
around 45 minutes an hour. I'm okay, so it's fine.
Yeah.
We can do
Yeah, I'm
whatever we
good.
want. So
Okay. So it's
tell me more about that for you.
well, it's an interesting story because, being raised Catholic, my parents' dream definitely would have been for me to marry a Catholic man, right? For sure.
Mhm.
And I didn't get married in a Catholic church, which is a big no-no, right? We did get our marriage recognized before he became Catholic, by a priest, but my husband was raised, Church of Christ, so very, I didn't grow up in it, so I'm only speaking from what he's told me. But, very like very strict. But as long as you come forth and say you were wrong, you're fine. And unpacking, as you know, when we're married, it's the biggest mirror to your all your flaws, all the things. So as we go through our marriage, we really start to see, what these did to it. And our counselor that we've seen, she'll say like he's had religious trauma. So it's really interesting. He's never lost his faith in God. He's always been close to God. He's always been close to the Bible, but he wasn't a super big fan of the Catholic Church. He didn't understand it. But we just decided from the time our kids were born and my kids were baptized Catholic that we were going to, he's like, this is our community. I'm going to make it my community, even though I don't really understand it. I don't think I ever want to become Catholic because that's kind of how he saw it. He wasn't opposed to it, but at that, he's like, and I never pushed him. I was just like, my kids are becoming Catholic, but I love my mother-in-law. But I mean, when we baptized my son, I got a letter from her of why we're going to hell for baptizing a baby. I mean, and how like all the Bible verses of how it's so wrong. And so really hard for me as I love my mother-in-law, but really hard for me, obviously. And also like my husband, oh my goodness, how he's got to feel so confused and torn. So um I wish my husband was here because I wish I could ask him, but I don't really know what sparked it. But it was like 2 years ago that he's like, I think I just want to go through. I grew up knowing it RCIA, Right to Christian Initiation, and they call it OCI now. And he said, I want to do it. And I was like, okay. And we had been going to church weekly. We tried really hard from the time my kids got baptized to like go. And I would say my years in the military, like I would go to a Catholic mass if they had it. I would, if they didn't have a Catholic mass, I would go to whatever. I went to Protestant. I just wanted to be with God. Like I never left the Catholic faith. I would say I got very loose in my Catholic faith. Um,
Mhm.
it wasn't a priority. Absolutely, I will go to church 10, 20 times a year, but it was not the priority for me to go every week until we had kids and baptized them. And so long story short, he says, I'm gonna do it. But he still wasn't like, I don't know if I'm gonna get baptized. And he really struggled because he's like, why can't I get baptized like all the other religions? Go out into the river. And he wanted to like do it like John. He was like, I want to get in the river and like be baptized that way. And it was hard for me. And so again, I say that we're mirrors in relationships because you really see where all like your sticky points are. Because I was like, it's the way it is, and it's fine. Like, let's just go talk to the priest about it. And and he could like they have a full submersion bath at our church, and he actually did go in on his
Oh, that's
baptism. But
good.
it is so interesting, like just to see where we got stuck. But then we go through OCI this entire year, as you know, and it's like every week I would learn so much. I learned more than he learned. I really believe that. But I feel like he's also teaching me now, um, because it just didn't compare to my religion classes growing up. And again, it's probably because I was a bad student. But to be there and then to get, the rescue project, if you've heard of that, we got to go through the rescue project and just to hear these stories and these miracles And again, I feel very connected to saints as well. And that was a big sticking point. Like his mom was like, they worship saints. They worship, and I'm not trying to hate on my mother-in-law,
No,
but
no, no.
you know, they worship Mary. Like that is so wrong. And both my grandmother's names were Mary. And I felt like I still believe this and I could cry saying it. Like I know, like they were the closest things to Mary that I've ever met. And they were my grandmothers. They were just amazing women. And so like I would take it so hard when I would hear like, don't, you know, don't worship Mary. I'm like, she's so much, you know, and it's to me, like that's what I want to exemplify as a mom. And
Mm.
for me, I started my business and worked so much because I didn't know how to be a mom. And that comes back to my own upbringing. But at the end of the day, like that's who I want to exemplify. And I,
Mhm.
you know, there's a reason why we have a husband and a wife and the children and the unit that we're supposed to be. And that is my model, right? Yes, Jesus loves me. I am here to be like Jesus. But Mary, as a mom, with all the grace she had and was able to give, like that's what I want to be, you know?
Totally.
So got sidetracked. But uh we had all these sticking points where I would say my husband was just questioning so much, but it was just beautiful the way that like I did not try to control it. I besides the baptism thing of like just go with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, besides that, like I just it was really beautiful to see how his faith grew my faith. And then he was able to have conversations with his mom and his dad. And now his dad is reading like the Catholic Bible. Do I think they're going to become Catholic? I have no idea. But it is really interesting how it's opened. And, you know, I know that you know this, like there's contention all over around this, right? And it's
Yes.
like,
Oh, totally.
we all love God. Can we just have a conversation?
But
Um,
Jesus said that, right? Like
mhm.
he told everyone that he's like, this is going to cause uproar because of what Jesus has taught us. Like the way that the path he paved was not one of, people hated him. They crucified him, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
And
it's not like
Christians today are still being killed every, you know, it's crazy. Yeah.
literally currently, yes,
Yes.
it's intense persecution, right? So what? Okay, I wanted to chime in because this is something I learned recently that I want to share. I mean, you maybe already know this, but I just want to share it because I feel like, yeah, if any of our listeners are not, I'm again, I this is all new learning for me. So I learned this like last week. Okay, but so don't take me as the expert, but it's pretty cool. I wanted to look up the terms because you alluded to people getting kind of up in arms about like, are you worshiping Mary? Okay, so listen to this. This is the Catholic theology. There is special veneration, is what it's called. So it's all about the terminology. Okay, there's
Hmm.
special veneration within the Catholic teachings given to Mary, which is called hyperdulia. Okay, there's a type of veneration given to saints that is called dulia. So this would be like an honor and
Hmm.
holding with great regard and respect of saints. It's called dulia. That's the Latin term. Okay. Hyperdulia is given to Mary, saying like the greatest of all saints, sort of thing. Right. And then these are both less than the adoration reserved for God alone. So the Holy Trinity, God the
Hmm.
Father, God the
Hmm.
Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is called latria. And so I think that the confusion can be with equating it all to latria. And this
Hmm.
is where we lose things with the English language, right? Where you're having this conversation with someone and we're like, we're not even speaking the same language because we're using the terms differently, or we're not using specific enough terms. Because really, when you use the word the term worship, even right, people say, "Oh, I'm
Yep.
worshiping God by singing this song." It's like, no, true worship is the Eucharist,
Yep.
and that's reserved for that alone. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation, right? That's not necessarily for today, but I think, yeah, just the fact that you trusted God through that process and that form of, kind of a form of persecution uh is beautiful, and the fruit that can come out of that.
Well, in our world, like you hit the nail on the head, our world exists through language. Like, think about that. I mean, we don't, you go to a foreign country and you don't speak their language and you are as lost as you could be. And so you're absolutely right. How much is lost in language? But again, we have to listen. It goes right back to what we've been talking about. Language is important, words are important, intent behind it, like what they're coming after. I say there, anybody that thinks that we're worshiping Mary, it's they think our intent, they're coming after our intent
Mm-hmm.
and our heart. And it's like um, we have to be better listeners, but we're
Yeah.
so caught up on being right that we want to win and be right that we don't care about listening. Like we give up
Yes.
listening to be right and to win. And there is no winning. Like that's where we as Catholics, in my opinion, it's like no, like we're trying to tell you, like this is, and again, I'm trying to be right now. It's like there's only one. There's only
Yeah.
one, and uh,
And
I don't know. I
we're all on a different point in our journey, right? God is so gracious about that.
Yes, and people will say all the time, like, oh, so if we go to hell, that doesn't like, no, like, and I'm not God, so I can't even really answer that truthfully. But my belief and my teaching is no, that, if they don't know God, they don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
But I do find it really interesting, like the way that we just want to, it's just separation. We just want to separate because then I feel better or less than or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's all one. And the Catholic faith is beautiful. And I love that this is where we went with this. I really
I know.
do. I love it. And
I love it.
yeah, and there's a reason why we call her the queen. And it's not, there's a reason. So I want to
Yeah.
be more like
Well,
Mary.
then
That's for sure.
when you see the full picture of the family, like what you described about the want to be that type of mother
Hmm.
is beautiful in and of itself. And I really think it's like when you look at God the Father, when you look at Saint Joseph, even, right, for fathers as a model. Like my husband was talking about that, how he really has learned so much through learning about more about Saint Joseph. And then even that connecting him more with Jesus and God the Father. And then for women, it's like this drawing in for like womanhood and motherhood that you don't get if you cut Mary out of the picture. Like it's essentially cutting women out, which is not
It's
God's picture. Like that's not God's plan for the family. We need to be able to see it all in its entirety and look at like this is the family of God, this is the body of Christ. It's a whole. Like I think there's way too much individualism in our society that like you said wants to separate, wants to individualize, wants to personalize your faith. And it's like yes, you do need a personal relationship connection where you're like you are taking a step of faith, but ultimately you're entering into this grace that is way bigger than just you, like way bigger.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head with grace. It's like to me, Mary is the ultimate divine feminine, and that is grace, and that grace is that. And we're in this culture of again constriction and fight. Feminism
Mm-hmm.
is constriction and fighting, and you're wrong, and I'm going to be righteous, and I'm going to be the one to hold up, and women have the right. And
It's
yes,
toxic feminism in our culture. It's toxic.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not.
Wow.
It's not. It's not. Yeah, we could. It's crazy.
I love this connection. I'm so thankful for you in this conversation.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, this is cool. Okay, one other thing, we should probably wrap up soon because I'm sure we
Yes.
have other things to do, although I feel like we could go for a really long time. One other thing I thought of throughout this conversation is I want to ask you, have you ever heard of the litany of humility? Like I'm just learning more about like praying, there's
Mhm.
structured prayers, there's divine office like liturgy of the hours, but then there's these litanies that are super cool too. Have you ever heard of the litany of humility?
I have my dad gives me all these like I haven't got like I need to look at it, but I have heard of it and that's as far as it goes. So
I
thank
just
you
went through
for
it
yeah.
I think it was like 2 weeks ago ish. I just went through it and it's so beautiful. Like even just okay, first line, "Oh Jesus, meek and humble of heart, hear me." And then it goes through like all these different lines you pray to free you from these different kind of like worldly desires. And it's like, in between each line, it's like, deliver me, oh Jesus, deliver me, oh Jesus. And it's powerful. So I'm not going to read it here because we're already kind of over the time I would normally do, but definitely look it up. And if you're listening to this, look it up, Litany of Humility. I was like, oh, wow, I need to pray this one like a lot. Lord,
I'm gonna
humble me.
do it today with my family. I love that. This has been such
Yeah.
a gift to me.
Yeah. Me
Thank
too. Yeah.
you.
Message me and let me know. We need to stay connecting and encouraging each other. I really love this. So
100%. Keep doing what
awesome.
you're doing.
Well, we just hope that this episode was a blessing to you and that you were able to just feel God's love through it and grow in. I know we talk a lot about women's health on this podcast, and your spiritual health is something that you're probably ignoring or getting distracted from because it's so easy to do. But it really is the most important one, where you cultivate love in your heart and love for God, love for your family and your community. Make sure you share this episode with a friend out of love. And if you haven't clicked the subscribe button, do that too. And in the meantime, be free, feel fresh, and live on fire.